A very good evening to you and welcome to Rwanda Television News with me, Sam Kalisa.
And I'm Fiona Mbabazi.
Starting off on the local scene, the Foreign Affairs Minister of the Central African Republic has announced that her country is going to do everything in its power to put an end to the conflict and insecurity that has plagued it, saying that it is certainly possible, seeing what Rwanda has been able to do in the last 26 years. Sylvie Bai Potemon made the remarks on Monday while starting her two-day working visit here in Rwanda. Serge Nore kickstarts tonight's bulletin with this report.
The minister made the announcement during a press conference and also noted that the visit is meant to further strengthen the strong bilateral relations between her country and Rwanda, noting also there is much the Central African Republic can learn from this country.
L'histoire du Rwanda est une histoire qu'en tant que centrafricaine, je perçois totalement parce que nous faisons face aussi.
I think a lot about Rwanda's history as a Central African because of similarities with the problems we're experiencing right now. With the exception of the 1994 genocide perpetrated against Tutsis, because that tragedy is beyond human understanding. Everything else that happened looks a lot like what happened in the Central African Republic. The truth is, our own people are the ones that took up arms against each other, which means we're fighting and killing each other, a Central African against another.
Des Africains, des Centrafricains aussi. Donc nous nous tuons aussi, nous sommes en tout cas incités à nous tuer les uns, nous affronter les uns aux autres.
Rwanda is taking steps to help the Central African Republic to navigate out of the perilous waters it now finds itself in, using the experience of Rwandans themselves. A program of unity and reconciliation has been put in place, a demobilization and reintegration program for former soldiers and those that used to be part of the armed groups that formed after the genocide. All that was done and produced very positive results, enabling the country to focus on other major programs and projects that are helping it to develop. Today we have certainly made significant progress, even though all those problems have not yet been fully overcome. As for this visit, it is to show that even though their problems are far from over, basing on the challenges we ourselves had to overcome, it is possible for them too. I am therefore here to tell you that we, as Rwanda, are prepared to work with the Central African Republic, giving them advice, even though these are two different countries we are talking about with distinct cultures and histories. Regardless, they can put behind the problems of divisionism and conflict, building up a peaceful country and then pushing for those developmental programs. Last week, direct flights between Kigali and Bangui began and are expected to help boost cooperation and investment between Rwanda and the Central African Republic. The leaders of both countries have also been commended for pushing for the sort of cooperation that should exist between all African countries.
Nous sommes un seul même peuple. Les frontières qui existent aujourd'hui sont des frontières.
We are one people, divided only by international borders that exist, but they too should be nothing more than figments of our imagination because they should not be a reason for us to forget that we are the same, being all human beings. We may have our differences, make our individual choices, but that does not mean that we can't respect each other. Certain joint initiatives have begun to help us understand that history and show our people in the Central African Republic that they are currently not on a good trajectory. What this country has achieved speaks for itself, and Rwanda has shown that unity is a force.
Rwanda a su montrer que l'unité était une force.
This visit by the Central African Republic's Foreign Affairs Minister comes following her Rwandan counterpart's visit to her country in January, during which he delivered a message from Rwanda's President Paul Kagame to the Central African Republic's President Faustin Archange Touadera.
Now, on the first day of the resumption of activities and the lift of the total lockdown that took place here in the city of Kigali, there are some residents who say that they didn't have a reason to actually get out of home, but they did it anyway, something that was criticized by many others. Now, on the other hand, in various bus parks across the city, there were limited numbers of passengers, even though people were moving in different parts of the city.
Most residents were seen going to their various places of work and businesses that had resumed, while other people were just going about with no particular reason. We missed moving around and we were tired of spending the day sleeping at home. I went to Kibagabaga and came back, and I have now come back to the market. Moving around is definitely different than when we were staying at home. We are glad that the lockdown has been lifted. There are some people, though, who have criticized this behavior. This is disobedience to the authorities and to the prevention guidelines put in place. It's evident that the pandemic is a serious problem to the world and to our country too. For service providers such as banks and telecommunication service providers, it was a different atmosphere after the lift of the lockdown as well. We are seeking different services, and it is taking so long because of the long queues, and we wish that they could increase the speed at which they are working so we can go on with the day. And for the transport service providers in Kigali, there were less passengers. It's a good thing that the lockdown has been lifted, but we don't have passengers. But we've learned that it's our responsibility to protect ourselves from the pandemic. The Minister for Local Government, Professor Shaka Anastase, says that although some activities have resumed and the lockdown has been lifted in Kigali, residents should be mindful and practice measures to stop the spread of the pandemic. In our workplaces, we should bear in mind that protection is first, because we don't want to go back into lockdown after a month or two because we didn't observe social distancing in markets, in supermarkets, and in bus stations. We need to protect ourselves. The other thing I ask is that simply because the lockdown has been lifted, then we should just leave home anyhow. Let's avoid unnecessary movements. Let's leave home only if we have to. If it's not urgent, then stay at home. The Rwanda National Police spokesperson, CP John Bosco Kabera, says misconduct by people shall be dealt with. After a year now, there's no reason why someone can't wear their face mask properly, wash their hands, or not respect the curfew time, or go to church when it's not allowed, or attend vigils and exceed the required number. Motors that say because they've spent 3 weeks without working, they should then carry 2 or 3 passengers. That's not allowed. The resolutions from the recent cabinet meeting stipulated that new measures would take effect from the 8th of February, including the lifting of the lockdown in Kigali city and some businesses' operations resuming.
Now, as Rwanda continues to focus on the use of technology as one of the strategies to fight the spread of COVID-19, some traders are calling for a revision of the Momo Pay system as it still faces various issues, including constant SIM card closures, which of course interrupts the trade that is being used through this method. Now, MTN Rwanda, however, says this is not the case. We do have the details with Sam Kalisa.
Technology payment methods are considered a pillar in the cashless economy policy. MomoPay is a method set up by MTN Rwanda to enhance the cashless payment system by eliminating the use of liquid cash-in payments between the buyer and the seller. This method, which does not require transaction fees, was welcomed with gratitude, but is now blamed by some traders who even have chosen to stop using it completely. They charge withdrawal fees. You cannot tell a person to add on that extra withdrawal fee. After a day, we don't have the money by cash, yet we have to pay wholesalers who as well use MomoPay. So giving them money is not possible. I request that they can make it possible to transfer money between 2 MomoPay accounts. When it happened, I contacted MTN and they told me to go to their service center. When I went there, they told me to contact their call center by calling 3000. After 4 days, I tried to call the number, but they never picked up. Sometimes they close it when you are in the middle of a transaction. Like me, they closed it for 3 hours, and after, I saw a message authorizing me to use it again. Jean-Paul Musuji, the head of MomoPay at MTN Rwanda, says problems faced by these traders were due to the limited information they had about the system and that no trader contacted the company for help and was ignored. When a trader wants to pay another trader, they dial *184#. The third option is for sending money to a number. They then have to use the other trader's code and send money as usual. Regarding closing the system, we saw traders who asked buyers to add withdrawal fees, and we could block their SIM cards, request them to not do the mistake again, and unblock them again. Currently, 1.8 million traders use this system of payment in Rwanda. In the last 30 days, the system was used to transact 190 billion Rwandan francs. The government of Rwanda has in the past years embarked on developing a cashless economy to reduce the cost of liquid money. The system was boosted recently as it is one of the strategies in place to contain the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the Ministry of Local Government has shown members of Parliament that in collaboration with other authorities, it has put in place measures to address the issues that are still being found in the media sector in Rwanda, including limited resources and disabilities in Rwanda. This was during a virtual meeting between the Ministry of Local Government and the Standing Committee of Political Affairs and Gender in the Chamber of Deputies. Ghislaine Mugwaneza has more on this.
The 2019-2020 report from the Rwanda Governance Board shows that it conducted a review on service delivery among local authorities, people with disabilities and media sector. The report showed that there are 11 districts that do not know the number of people with disabilities, resulting in poor planning. There is also an issue of limited resources in Rwanda's media, as explained by Honorable Furaha Emma Rubagumya, the Political and Gender Equality Committee chairperson.
They say
that they do not appreciate the service delivered to them, and they say that we do not involve them in their planning as well as not getting what they want. They also say that their number is unknown. They are not even in categories, but as we have discussed, there are efforts that are being made. As you have seen in the report, there are problems in media resources that became more worse economically due to COVID-19. So we wanted to know what is being done. The Minister of State in charge of social affairs in Minalok, Inyasien Nyirarukundo, says that to solve the problems addressed by people with disabilities, there is a plan to set up sustainable planning and capacity building for people with disabilities, as well as working closely with districts to address the challenges they face so that they get solved quickly. What is not known is what every individual needs and over what time period. So merging those things is easy because their addresses are known. This will be done at the district level to identify those figures. We usually know that each district has got its own number of vulnerable people, and even though we may have the general number of figures, we must identify individual facts about those people, where they live, not it so that they get what they need on time. The rest is to tell them that for this to be 100% done is not hard and it is possible. This can be done in 1 year. On the issue of limited resources in the media sector, which became even more worse because of the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and measures to fight it, the parliamentarians asked the Ministry of Local Government about their plan in solving this. Mrs. Nyasien Nyirarukundo admitted that this problem has existed for some time and could affect professionalism in the sector. However, she says that something had been done to support the media, working with those in the profession. An issue of media capacity can be solved. It is understood that no one has enough capacity, but because they decided to work together in solving this problem, what we will do is to support them, advocate for them. They will be the one to tell us where to help them. The members of parliament also had discussions with the Ministry of Gender and Family Promotion on issues such as teenage pregnancies, domestic violence, polygamy, and divorce. The ministry's officials stated that campaigns have begun to address the issues. Shislan Mugwaneza, reporting for RTV.